All right, everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is the Shakedown, Sit Down. Today, I am sitting down with Kattreena. Kattreena is a school teacher and was a member, a rep of the multi-level marketing company called Lavell. Kattreena, welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. So a little backstory, me and Kattreena actually live in the same city area, like in the greater Pittsburgh area, different neighborhoods, but we are actually kind of close to each other. So that's really exciting. So Kattreena, let's just dive right in. Tell me about your history with multi-level marketing and Lavell in particular, since that's what we're going to talk about today.
So my story actually starts, I was with Beachbody for a little while. And that's kind of how I got to Lavell. So I was with Beachbody in 2018, I started. And I really had no idea what multi-level market was. I had no idea anything about it. I was
so many of us didn't, right? We were just like, oh, cool, this is a thing.
Right, exactly. And I was like, oh, I like to work out and eat healthy, and this is great. We'll start here. Unfortunately, my dad passed away that year, and thank you. He was really pushing for me to go for it. And, he didn't know anything about it either, but just thought I could be really successful. And so I used that story to kind of keep me in. I was like, I have to do this for my dad.
So just to clarify, so you had already joined Beachbody when he was alive?
Yes, I had joined when he was alive.
Okay. And so he knew that you were doing this thing, and he wanted to support you with joining Beachbody. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then when he passed, not my direct upline, but her upline, was very oh, I'll make you dinner and I'll get you gift cards and I'll help you and do all these things. And she never actually went and did those things, or came to the funeral like she said she was going to do. And then
she was local. You had your upline was local to you?
Yeah, she was local to me, and actually was really rooting me on more so than, so I don't know what you call these. Is this my grandma upline? I don't even.
I just keep hearing people say my upline's upline. My uplines. I'm just like, this is too much. But sure, let's call her. You know what? I like my grandma upline. So let's go.
Okay. I've heard it before. I don't know. There's probably aunts and cousins and all kinds of other things too, but I don't know. So I was kind of encouraged to use my dad's story to be I want to get everybody healthy. And he passed away from a heart attack. Okay. So
and it was sudden, it was more sudden, but
yeah, it was sudden. It just happened, and he went like that. And
now, not to change subjects, but I just want to ask, because ironically, I just had my first EKG this morning because a woman that I work with, her husband, who was 40, died of a sudden heart attack. And it was an enlarged heart, which was a genetic condition. Now, was your dad's something like that? Was it a blockage? What did they ultimately decide caused it? There was blockage everywhere, and he also had heart disease. So it just all happened at once. Had he been getting treated at all for any heart stuff before?
No.
Gotcha.
No, he actually was very anti-doctor and tried to fix things himself. And he wasn't the healthiest, if I were putting it in terms like that. Didn't really go to the doctor regularly. So it just kind of happened. We thought it was the flu, the symptoms he had, and then it just.
Oh no. I'm so sad. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. He was only 61. So it was young and very sudden. And it's been 4 years already. It's
not wild. Yeah. I know.
But so he was kind of my driving force. I was okay, I'll keep going. I can do this. And then I was using a lot of those color-coded containers, which I've struggled with an eating disorder in the past, and it still creeps up. And those containers did not help.
I never fathom that they would have. It boggles my mind about this.
I know. And I started, I had my son in March of 2018. So I was I'm going to do 80-day obsession and lose the baby weight. And I did. I saw great results, but coming out of that was really hard. Like with Beachbody, it's like you go from just program to program. You're always like trying to get an after photo. And so I actually started to kind of like gain some weight, and I went to a nutritionist and found out it's because I was eating so little calories. I was eating in the lowest bracket because I was always trying to lose weight.
Right.
Because we were just, trained, like we got to have that after picture. We have to have like results.
Right.
So I actually, at that point, I was like, I don't think this is working for me. Like, I just can't seem to, I like my workouts to just be like a lifestyle thing. So I don't like to have to follow a program after program after program. It was making things like going out to eat difficult. Like I was like, can I eat this whole salad, or is that too many greens? Like I just, it really, truly, like it was confusing. Like it was hard to cook or mix ingredients. Like it just, and because I was like gaining weight, I was like, what is the problem? So I actually told my grandma upline, I'm thinking about like walking away. I don't like want to do these workouts. And my nutritionist said this, and she actually was like, your nutritionist doesn't have the right to tell you that like you aren't eating enough. And like, he's out of his like scope. And then she's like, and you also don't have to do the workouts. You can be in Beachbody and like not do the workouts and like do other things. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. Like if I'm promoting.
So do you know your grandma upline, what like, aside from Beachbody, like what did she do for, or anything else? Like, does she have any kind of other background?
She was a nurse.
Okay.
She was a nurse.
Okay.
Her downline, she has a very well-known coach under her, which is kind of how she, took off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me when nurses are in MLMs that are health and wellness MLMs. And this is not to discredit nurses. Nurses go through extensive training, but it's like when you look at any kind of doctor, it's like, today, like I went to my PCP and they did an EKG, but if something came up in that EKG, they're going to send me to a specialist, right? So the nurses, like and again, I'm saying this, I don't know all of the schooling that nurses go through, but they go through like your baseline of the stuff they need to be able to do to be an effective nurse. And through experience and being in the hospital and working with doctors, I'm sure they learn a lot of things. But to make any kind of statement that a nutritionist whose entire career and job and training was studying nutrition for any nurse or person, period, to say, like, as teachers, I would not make some sort of grand statement, be like, well, I'm a teacher, so I teach these things. Well, no, I don't teach nutrition. So it's mind-boggling to me that having any kind of medical background, period, seems to kind of embolden people to feel like they have some sort of authority to speak on these things. Be like, well, I'm a nurse, you can listen to me. Well, like I want nurses when it comes to immediate diagnosis, helping me bandage something, helping with a broken leg, but if I have like a nutrition thing, I might ask a nurse for their thoughts, but definitely not a diagnosis. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And again, I don't want anyone to be like, you're hating nurses. I don't hate nurses. I'm just, trying to, it's making sure that it's acknowledging that every position should acknowledge like where their scope or their limits exist.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. And so that just didn't sit very well with me. And I just finally made the decision that I was going to stop. And my upline was a good friend of mine. She didn't, I don't even know if she does it anymore, but she was not into like building a team and doing all this. She kind of just liked the workouts, liked the products. And so I think my grandma upline, said she saw the potential and like wished I was directly under her. And so that's kind of the vibe that I got, because once I told her I was leaving for sure, after all of this messaging, I just got a thumbs up. It's the typical, like, you're leaving, so done with you.
You have nothing else to talk about. Yeah,
we're done. So I was like, I'm done. I'm not, doing this anymore.
So how long was that? How long did you do that for?
So I did Beachbody a little under a year. I want to say like, it was like July of 2018, and before the next summer, like I had stopped.
Gotcha.
And then I was like, I'm not doing any of this like anymore. And then I saw a girl that had done Beachbody before. I knew her just from social media. And she like so it was that whole like FOMO thing. Like I'd see her on social media, like just showing up, like being so positive and happy and like just loving her life. And I'm like, what is she doing now? And it was Lavell. And for the longest
now, was it
time,
like kind of hidden? Did you have to like look for it? Did you have like, she didn't say Lavell a lot?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And she made like a post that was like, I'm done with network marketing, like the way I used to be, and I'm heading in a new direction. Like, wait until you see what's coming. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is she doing? Like this, sounds so fun. And then like I was very skeptical of the patches. Like I know you said you were looking up like some of their products.
I just watched like a promo video and everyone's got the patch on, like every interview. And I'm like, this feels a little bit culty.
Yes.
Patches. Yeah.
Like looking back, I can be like, I should have went with my gut, but I was like, I can get down with vitamins and like a protein shake, but this patch thing is like bizarre. Like we just wear this for the rest of our lives, like every day. Like I'm like, where do I wear this? You have to put it on a different spot every day. So I'm like, am I going to run it? I mean, you'll see it like everywhere. They put it everywhere. So
I have questions about the patch, but let's finish your story.
Oh yeah, we can get to that. But like that was holding me back for the longest time. I was like, I can't do this like patch thing. I just cannot.
Right.
And then like I would be asking questions, and the typical response is like, now knowing more about MLMs, very much like, you don't know until you try it. You can't like have this idea about it until you actually do it. And what if it works for you? And Lavell has this like mini experience where they try to sell like 3 days or 6 days worth of products to get you like using the products.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was like, all right, let's just try it. So I tried it. I was like going on my story, sharing about it. And she's like, you're already doing it. Like, why not, join me? And I was like, okay, maybe. Like I felt stuck too. Like I told you, from when I was in Beachbody, I've had issues with body dysmorphia, accepting my body. So I'm like, okay, this will work for me. Like maybe this will work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it did. I would say like I maybe lost like a couple pounds, but it wasn't anything drastic. Like It was probably just like bloat is literally what my nutritionist told me.
Yeah.
From, like not eating enough and then, eating more and whatever. But they just kept coming out with more products, trying new things. I mean, my coach or my upline was very much into like love bombing, having me lead training. So I felt like really important. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm leading trainings. Like this is crazy. And yeah, she would always like check in every month and just be like, how are things going? What can I do for you? I love you. Like sending presents, like all those things.
She sent you. Okay. So let's talk about what you experienced when it comes to the love bombing. What types of experiences did you have that you can now look back and say, that was love bombing and now I know to recognize it?
Yeah. So I would definitely say there was always the check-in. So I was just looking up messages from back then, and it would just be like, hey girl, just wanted to stop in and like tell you I love you. Like you're doing a great job. What can I help you with this month? Just like really making sure to check in. She got me a present for reaching 4K, which is their first rank. And then of course, like the shouting out that we were promoted to do, like all the shout outs. She always used me as an example for the team and always told me like, I see you as like my top leader. You're going to do like amazing things with this. But then like when you would ask questions for specific answers, it was always those answers like, well, you just have to like, read more of your personal development or try this or do, it wasn't like concrete answers. Like how can I sell more or how can I be more?
It's redirected to here's what you can do to find the answer that we don't even have.
Right. And there was even a time she answered and was like, it's not necessarily doing like what I do. It's like doing what works for you or this, and it's just one of those like roundabout answers where you're like, no, can I just have, like, how do I do this?
Right. And isn't it interesting, like because I experienced a little bit of that too. Like when in my MLM, I got some gifts when I hit a certain rank from my upline. And I don't think, I think she genuinely believed like she was just being a good leader, right? Like she wasn't intending to. And she would make graphics with our faces of the top 10 in her first upline or downline or whatever. And isn't it interesting, like when you look at that and then you look at like our daily jobs, right? Like it's not normal. It would not be normal for our principals to message us daily, weekly, to be like, hey, just checking in. What do you need? Right. You're great. I love you. You're doing such a great job. Like you should expect to hear from your principal about things you need to hear about. But then at your evaluation, that's when it would be like, hey, you're doing a really great job. We think you're doing great here. That's the appropriate time to get that really positive feedback if you deserve it. But anything outside of that would be like, why does my principal keep saying that? Like, why does my boss keep saying these things? It would be really uncomfortable. But because the MLM creates a structure of friendship, family, community, they send you all of that makes you feel like, oh, I'm so important. Right. I'm super important. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Until you're done. And then like I was unfollowed. I was taken out of all these things. And it's so interesting. Like my upline was younger than me. And it's just crazy how much like I looked up to her and I was just wanting like the success that she was having.
Yeah.
It almost, it kind of felt like some like resentment even. Like you're watching, because after all, you are in competition with everybody on your team, essentially. So you're watching all these people and you're like, how can I get there? How can I do, you know, I'm doing what they're doing. Why isn't it working? And it's just, you know, looking back now, it's the system. It's not, and I was working really, really hard. Like,
of course.
Really hard, like you know, the cracks of time in your day and whatever, like going in the bathroom, typing, you know, how they tell you lunch break, you know, all that stuff.
It's crazy. And I think it's not only the system, but I think for some people too, it's like who their normal circle is. Yeah. Because for me, before I became anti-MLM, I was getting hardcore recruited for Norwex, like, cause I did a party and I was hosting lives and I was doing a great job. I had a great party, like had $1,000 in sales, like on that party. Right. But the people in my circle, like, I don't even know how I managed to get that, because anytime I would post about anything multi-level marketing related, nobody engaged, no one. So like, I knew that I was going to have to be forced to really go outside of my warm market. Like immediately. It was so fast for my warm market to turn cold. So it's just, I think that's also part of it, that some people are in an environment where everybody's like, yes. Like I'll do all these things. I will buy all the products. I'll join. Right. And for a lot of us, we're just not in that. And so it's very quick for us to be like, this isn't working. I'm out.
Right.
Okay. So how long were you in Lavell then?
So I was in Lavell from November of 2019 until I think it was the following summer, because I do remember when COVID hit in 2020, I was like, oh, we're virtual. Like we're not working. I can really like, you know, and I remember messaging her and being like, I can do this. Like I have more time now. And it was just so time consuming. I just remember like sitting there with my little kids and I'd be like on my phone, or you have to work so hard to like get that sale, and it should not be that hard.
No. And that end of month push is like the most anxiety inducing. Like sometimes when I think about it too, I'm just like, oh my God. Okay. So how much was it to join Lavell?
So I bought, even though I was encouraged, there's 3 different packs. One's like 200, one's 400, one's 800. And I went with the cheapest one. Like I went with 200. I was encouraged to buy more because I'm going to run out of everything. Everyone's going to want these products, you know, but
we're teachers, so we're going to be frugal.
Yeah. And there was a promo at one point where if you bought the $800 pack, you would get paid as a top leader. But of course you have to like sell a certain amount. And I put it on a credit card, the $800. And I remember just being like, okay, I will like sell all these. I'll pay it off. I mean, I paid it off eventually, but it was not from my samples. It was
from your regular paycheck.
And that was something too. I was like, this it was like, is that cognitive dissonance that we talked about? Like I had a moment where I was like, this isn't right. Like I feel terrible that I have this on my credit card and this is not how it should be. And oh my gosh, I remember doing my live with my daughter, like, look what I got in the mail, this like big box. And I like had some of these pop up and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know that's like the time hop is not kind anymore. Those things start popping up because you're like, good grief. Yeah, I totally understand that because the FOMO and it's like that feeling we're just like, you know what, it'll be fine. And then something I experienced, I don't know if you experience this too. You're like, well, if I put it on the credit card, I'll get perks from my credit card. So then it's like, well, then, you know, it'll all balance out. It'll all balance out. And then trying to justify it, you're having an argument like that internal self versus self conflict.
Exactly.
No, I can make this work, but okay, it's maddening.
Right.
And so then you eventually get pushed into that pressure of just like, and it's really crazy too, because I think one of the things I hear a lot of MLM reps say is like, we never forced you, because the pressure is so sneaky. It's not outwardly like you have to do this, you must buy it. It's very manipulative and painting this FOMO picture. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So what came in your first pack?
So I got a 30-day supply of capsules, 30-day supply of patches, and then 2 boxes of shakes. But the shakes don't come with a 30-day supply. So like they made it out to be like, it's a free box. But really, I mean, I guess it technically was free, but I mean, you wouldn't have had enough to have all month long. So.
And this was for you to consume though.
Yeah.
Right. And so then how did your customers buy anything?
So they could either get samples through me if I had them, or I was trained to, like, this is mind blowing to me when I think about this. I would like create an account for them. They'd give me their credit card, like to do it all for them, right? Because customer service. And I would be like, this person's really giving me their credit card. Like, it just seemed wild to me that somebody would do that. And it's weird too. Like when you go into a store, you don't do that. You just hand over your card. You know, nobody's like doing.
Right. And then like there are situations in our everyday life where you would give someone your credit card number over the phone.
Right.
For example, the daycare that my daughter goes to, that's how I pay. I call and I give them my credit card information over the phone. But it's different because that is a business.
Right.
You have insurance.
Yes.
Like, so if anything goes wrong, if somebody at that daycare were to steal my credit card info,
right.
There's like a system. But if you, if you get your credit card info stolen from a rep, Lavell's not going to do anything about it. They're going to say, "Oh, that's on that rep. We'll fire her." But then what's going to happen? And you don't have the money to sue or follow up. So yeah, it's really shady.
Oh yeah. And the reason they wanted you to do that was because they wanted you to keep the auto shipment on. So you would sign them up for auto shipment. And then I remember being specifically told, like, tell them, you know, I have it on for you, so you get it, but don't turn it off. Like, it's up to them. So if they forget, they forget, you know? So.
And that's, oh my gosh, like that makes me almost like nauseous thinking about being in a position to know that, okay, if I don't tell this person that it's going to be on and remind them,
right,
then I'll get that commission. But then you're running the risk of them calling and being like, hold on a minute, I didn't want this, I forgot. Like there's so much in there, and you're just like running that gamble of, is this customer going to call me and make a complaint and be like, I want my money back? Because then that's way more work for you.
Oh yeah.
It's all mind boggling to me that this is a system that they just try to be like, yeah, that's fine. So these sample packs, it sounds a lot like, because I used to do a lot of stuff with Jesse Lee Ward. So it sounds a lot kind of like Prove It with the trial packs. So it's the sample packs.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you could do it that way. And then they started having like samples on the website. So you could like use your credits. That's another thing. We'll talk about credits, what Lavell gives you, but you can use like your credits or send out samples through the website. But initially that's what it was. It was like, okay. And then you had to get, you know, all the cute envelopes and go to the post office and
mail them out.
Yeah.
Yep. So did you ever, so Le-Vel wouldn't be something that there were like parties or anything, right? Where someone would host a party. It was just, you were just trying to get customers.
Right. Okay. They had conventions and stuff like for the reps.
Right. But I mean, like in terms of like when I did Perfectly Posh, we tried to get party hosts to host the party. They got the perks and the free stuff. And so, okay. So Le-Vel doesn't do that kind of thing.
No.
Gotcha.
No parties.
That's all wild. So, okay. So let's talk about these credits then. Yeah. How do you get credits?
So this is how, like when I see reps saying like you get your products for free and stuff, like this is when I'm like, this was not the case. So if you get 2 customers underneath you, you then get credits based off of what they ordered. So like the average. So
and this is just customers, not people signing up as reps.
It can be both.
Okay.
It can be both. So a trick they taught us was have a separate account so you can order stuff underneath. So you get credit for that. And then that counts towards your credits, but that's not really free.
Right. That's not free.
No. So they would take like if you had 2 customers, they would take what they ordered and averaged it out. And then you'd be given that many credits. So like sometimes, I mean, I would receive like over 100 credits that you could use on your products. However, they do not allow you to use the credits on shipping. So no matter how many credits you got, you had to pay $15 in shipping. So when
$15, jeez.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's more now because everything.
My upline would always be like, that's because they have fast shipping. You get it in 3 days. Like it's so worth it. But that's not free either. Like you're still paying $15 every month. So when you say it's free, it's not really free. And if you don't get 2 new customers underneath you, then you don't get the products. So.
And then do the credits have a monetary value that gets added to your 1099 during tax season?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know.
Because with Perfectly Posh, we had perks. Okay. Kind of basically, I mean, again, when we say MLMs are the same, they're all because the same idea. You got perks for every, it's like, you know, Giant Eagle perks, like perks for every $1.
Yep.
And I got my 1099 and there was a monetary value attached to the perks. And I was like, son of a bitch. This it was added to what So, and that's when we talk about the free trips, you know, when these MLMs say there's free trips, well, it's not free because that value is going to be added to your taxes. So it's just, it's really wild to me.
Oh yeah. And I know we were encouraged to like give our credits away. Like we would be like, offer people your credits so that you can give away, you know, get them products, all these things.
Yep. We could transfer perks to people and be like, you can get your free soap. I'll give you some perks. I have perks expiring. And then they would, did your credits expire? Because our perks expired.
No, ours didn't expire.
Oh man, at least that's good.
Yeah, they didn't expire. There would be some that you would get and there would be like stipulations on how to use them or what you couldn't use them on a sale or this or, you know, just.
Gotcha. Man. Okay. So you had the credits. Okay. Did you have a team when you were in Le-Vel?
Yeah. So it was a very small team. But I did have one. Okay. And I want to say maybe had like 6 under me. I know my upline, I just read it. I was going back and like reading through some stuff and I know that's another thing she would do is be like, hey, I just moved somebody under you to like get you to Emerald or not Emerald, that's Beachbody, get you to 4K. So I just moved this person because I believe in you. And like, I know you can do it. Like
so that's stacking. That's what we've learned is called stacking.
Yes.
It's just,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is funny I don't know about Le-Vel's, but like a lot of these MLM companies that I've researched, their policies and procedures say not to do that.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I know in Beachbody, I was trying to get really close to whatever's after Emerald. And I was getting people enrolled. I had my mom under there. I'm like, Mom, like, I'll help you pay your bills when I get to the top, all this stuff.
Gosh, right.
And like, my parents are just wonderful, but I remember I did it like wrong. Someone signed up first and they shouldn't have. And I reached out to my grandma upline and I was like, should I like call compliance and like try to get this like worked out? And she was like, no, what are you doing? Like that will alert them. Like you can't do that. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. Like I thought
that will alert them. Don't call compliance. It'll alert them that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
What's even crazier to me is that like, if it's in the policies and procedures, how are people even able to do it in the first place?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's so strange. And that it just goes back to that these companies don't care. Like they put it in their policies and procedures so that you won't do it. But if you do it, they just look the other way.
Yeah, like it looks good that they have that policy.
Right. That way they can say, oh no, we don't condone it, but look at people doing it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So how many were on your team?
Probably like maybe 6 or 7. It was not.
Yeah. And did you see any, so, I mean, I'm sure your grandma upline, like what was the difference in income for your team compared to income from your sales?
Oh, I mean, it was definitely more from the team because you just were always like working to get your team to like get to the next rank and I remember I had someone on my team that was like, well, if you get to 4K, like, what does that mean for us? And I was like, oh, good question. And I like asked my upline and they were like, well, nothing. They're a part of your team. Like they get to be a part of a 4K team. And that's the answer I had to give her. And I remember she didn't stick around very much.
Well, because that's when you realize if you get them, it's like the Monat Dubai trip.
Yeah.
These women, I think it was all women, they got to go to Dubai because other people ranked up.
Yes.
So it's
yeah,
that's an actual pyramid scheme. Like people above you getting a benefit of something because people below you did all the work. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
It's insane. And I remember I tried so hard to get another girl of mine that came from Beachbody to rank up, and it just wasn't work. We were doing all the things, all the steps,
Well, and it's that's where my cognitive dissonance started to kick in, was when I was reaching out to my team, and my team was people I was friends with that I knew personally, and reaching out to them to be like, hey, just checking in, and knowing that I wasn't checking in just to check in on my friend, but to see like, what are your goals this month? Are you going to sell? Like, what are we doing? How's it going? Can I help you?
Yep.
But knowing that was just because I knew that if they hit a certain amount as a team, I was going to get a bonus like that. And I just kind of like shoved that down. I was like, don't pay attention to that feeling.
Yeah.
And that's what we all experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point, what was your breaking point? Where were you like, I can't do this anymore?
I would say, so it definitely, it was that summer. And I think I just, again, like, I wasn't seeing crazy results. I wasn't feeling like all of the energy that everybody was saying.
Like, and you're allowed to eat like normal on this?
Yeah, you can eat. I mean, they've come out with some other like products now and like plans, but at the time you're supposed to have this shake as your breakfast every single day. That's supposed to be your breakfast. So it's like your 3 steps before your feet hit the floor. You take those capsules.
I watched the video. I was like, okay.
Literally, like, that's what we would say. And then you would, like, 30 minutes later, take your shake, and then you'd put your patch on. And I, like, it was summer, and I was like, this patch is stupid. Like, I'm going to get a tan line from this. Like, where am I supposed to put this? How do I go swimming?
And what's in the patch? What's the patch supposed to be doing?
So what we were told is, God, this is giving me, like, flashbacks.
I know. It's always rough.
I'd come on live and be like, oh, and share. But these patches had different ingredients in them, and your skin is the largest organ. So it absorbs all of that and goes into your bloodstream, and it lasts for 24 hours and gives you, it's different for everybody. So it fills in the nutritional gaps. So whatever you need, it's going to do for you. And then it's going to do something different for me based on like what my body's.
But with the same ingredients.
Yes. And there were different ones. So there were like stronger ones, and they had ones that were like for fat loss, and like you'd have to wear 2 of those. I remember I tried those because I was like, I want to see, because I remember like being like, I don't feel anything like with these patches. Like some people were having, like my one friend who did it with me, she would be like, I can't wear these ones. Like my heart is just pounding, because they also had caffeine in them.
Were there like ingredient labels on these anywhere? Like were you able to see what was actually in them?
Yeah, they were on like the back. They weren't listed how much was in there, and it has like that proprietary blend that means whatever. But yeah, so like some of them had more caffeine, and I personally never felt like anything with them. And when I brought up to my upline about like not using the patches, can I just like do the vitamins and the cap or the shakes?
Yeah.
She's like, well, you have to be a product of the product. Like you really should do all 3. That's what it's meant to do. And eventually it was going back to school time, and we were, at the time I was teaching in brick and mortar, but we were doing a hybrid schedule. So I had virtual kids and in-person kids, and I had to like do both at the same time. And, you know, schools weren't prepared for that. Like so it was a lot. And I was like, you know what, I can't do this. Like I'm trying to figure out school. I'm trying to get really good at the virtual thing. And like, I just cannot put all this time into it. And I remember her saying like, well, maybe you need to think about that you have a team and you're showing up for them, and it's not just about you. And I was like, I have to
show up for my students.
Yeah, right. Like, and myself, like, I mean, you know, for being a teacher, just how crazy it has been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just having to figure out, you know, doing all of that with teaching. And when I go for advice, my upline is a stay-at-home mom. So she would be like, well, I can't really tell you like how to do it, but like, you know, you just gotta like figure out what works for you. And I'm like, I need help. I can't do it. It's not how they say where, oh, it's just 10 minutes a day and you can build this $1 million business.
It never is that. It never, ever, ever is that. It's always this false advertisement. Then you get in and you're like, shit, this was not what I signed up for.
No, not at all. All the team calls and all the chats going, like blowing up your phone, and just all that you're expected.
You guys had a lot of that. You had team calls and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. We had team, because it would be like, I was on my upline's team, and then we as a team were under this team. And then this whole team was under this large team. So we would have like, I think we had like 3 Zoom calls a week. Then we'd have like group chats, and we'd had like groups on Facebook. We'd have group chats. We used, I think it's called Telegram.
Yeah.
We had that going on too. And they were always like so late. Like they were always at like, well, I say 8 o'clock, like that's late, but like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
That is late. Like that's the thing. It's, you know, when I started doing this and people were sending me links to like get on these calls. Yeah. It was like 8, 9 o'clock at night. And I was like really in the thick of like trying to get into this, you know, like I really wanted to do it and I really wanted to be there. Yeah. My husband was like, it's 8 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock. Let's only watch TV. And I was like, just tonight, just this one night. Right. Because I was like trying to create content. I was really curious what went on in these calls. But as I'm in these calls, I'm thinking, if this was what I was doing, like I was telling my husband, like, no, I have to go be on this call for work. Like, I know that people work at there's lots of people who are night owls and they work at night, and there's different people. But like, especially if you're working a full-time job, regardless of what your full-time job is, there's a certain time of your day where you're shutting down. And 8 o'clock for me is like, I'm done. I'm done for the day.
Especially when you have kids and you work. Like for me, I'd come home at 4 and I had like 4 hours to be with them until they went to bed. And you're like, oh, I have to like send messages. I have to follow up with these people. I have to when am I going to do all of these things? And I just like looking back, I was like really on my phone. Like I was with my kids, but I was on my phone, and it just, there's no way to spend hours in my opinion. Like, how they set a schedule.
Exactly. Yeah. So you were getting to that point. So how did you quit? How did you break up with Lavell? What did you do?
Well, I just told my upline, and then I just like stopped posting. So I didn't do like an announcement or anything. I was like, I'm just going to stop posting.
Disappear.
If people ask me, I would be like, no, I'm not selling that anymore.
Okay.
For a while before I actually quit, I would, like, if people asked me for orders, I would like put in an order for them or whatever, but I wasn't like actively trying to recruit or really sell anything. So then I just kind of like disappeared from posting about that.
Right. Yeah. Now, did you make friends though? Like people that you felt like you were close with while you were there?
Yeah. Like and it's also that whole, like how sometimes we idolize the big leaders. Like there were ladies in like my big group that I was like, oh my gosh, like they are just so inspiring. And the one would also do love bombing too, like would reach out to me specifically and just like tell me how great I'm doing. And I thought we had a connection for being online. And my upline, she lives in a different state, but we were planning like, hey, we should all get together, like a trip, this and that. And I felt like really close with her.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, once I was done, it was just over.
So did they block you, unfollow you? What was the?
So they didn't block me. They did unfollow me. So I still look at their stuff, but.
Right. So you can still see, but then they just stopped talking to you, right? Like
they just stopped. Like they removed me from, the Telegram and all that stuff, removed me from groups. And it was done. Like
so tell me what that felt like on your end, experiencing that.
Well, it's interesting because I had just like around that time, I had found like the anti-MLM genre, and actually, Deanna Mims was the first one that I saw.
Yeah.
And I would watch her stuff and be like, that's not true. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I was like arguing with her, like, that is not right. But I was so curious about it.
Yeah.
And I remember her, in one of her videos talking about how like everyone's friends with you until you leave or you're done. And so when it happened, I was like, wow, this wasn't like a group of friends or a family. It literally was just
contingent
a number. So that's when I really started to like dive into like anti-MLM content. And for a while I was like, is this really like, it was hard for me to believe that I had been a part of something like that. And I even remember when I joined, one of my friends was like, that's a pyramid scheme. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, no, what are you talking about? Like, there's products. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I just was very, I want to say ignorant, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know.
I mean, that's what, I mean, that's what ignorant means. We are ignorant to, and the first MLM I ever joined was Tupperware, which is like so strange that even exists. But I was at this party and someone asked, how is this not a pyramid scheme? Yeah. And that was the first time I'd ever heard. And she answered, she was like, oh, because, if I recruit you, you can rise above me at any time. And and it's just like, as I keep learning and growing in this community, I'm like, that's the only industry that we are like, you're given an answer for a question of how is this not an illegal thing?
Yes.
It's just so interesting that's, and everyone's just like, totally normal to have to defend what you do.
I was just going to say, like, so many of my posts are defensive. Like, I tried to be really bold and be like, just very like in your face, like defending what I was doing.
I don't know if you saw the video I did with Jenny Wild where we reacted to her video, and that's what her video was. Yeah. She went live to like yell at the world that she was in a pyramid scheme. It was so funny, but she like now looking back, she's like, I can't believe that this is what I was thinking. But it's so interesting. I love talking to people about all their stories because they're all different, but they're also almost exactly the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? And and at some point it's like, you're like, maybe this will be different. Nope. This is the same story, slightly different names, slightly different situations, but the outcome is all the same.
Yeah.
Did you feel, I don't know, like, so when everybody like unfollowed you and everything went silent, did you feel kind of abandoned or anything? Like, I don't want to put like words in your mouth, but I really want to start talking about what that feels like, because times we've talked about that it happens, right? When we don't really just like dive into discussing, all right, how did you process through it, or how did it feel to know that people you thought you were friends with are suddenly just gone. So
Yeah,
what did you feel like?
I was definitely shocked by it. I really, truly thought, because I had kind of put it out like, I need to take a step back. Like I need, to focus on school.
Right.
So I really thought I was still going to be like a part of the group, still talk to them, but just not really be actively involved. But I will say, I remember having this just like sense of relief too. I was like, I don't have to check in every morning. I don't have to post if I, don't want to. And like I said, I was very shocked because I was so drawn to my upline. Like I really felt a connection. I really believed like I could do this.
Yeah.
And then just to kind of have it all be, we're done talking with you and we're done, you're not a part of this anymore. It was just very strange to like look back at messages and be like, but you said this and you said this and you sent me gifts and we were talking about a trip. And now it's just because I'm not actively working the business, it's done.
Yeah. And you start wondering, it's like, you asked me about my kids. Did you actually ever care about my kids? Like we talked about mommy things. Like I had that with my upline. I was like, we talked about a lot of like personal things.
Right.
And none of that matter to you. Like, just the fact that I'm leaving. Yeah. So I understand that feeling a lot, really, really well. And it can be lonely,
definitely.
I know for you and me, and maybe, just from hearing yours, like we had good relationships with our uplines and the people on our teams, but they weren't necessarily like super strong and best friend type situations. Right. So I feel like, and it's a varying degree of abandonment or loneliness that some people can feel, but that, you feel like everything just like the rug gets pulled out from under you because you asked a question, because you decided to move on.
Right.
And it's really, it's lonely, in that moment. And then you're just like, who do I talk to now? Because you get used to talking to people every day. And they're not talking to you. You're like, I have no one to actually text right now.
Yeah, exactly. And just the feeling of like being put down almost for choosing just the career that I'm in. Oh, like, wow, I can't believe you're going to go do this, as they say, the 9 to 5 instead of like pursue this dream, and that's what I had to, my job is what's paying the bills and taking care of myself and my children. So something had to give.
So how do you feel now that you're like out of it? Where are you at mentally,
Yeah. So I'm super glad I'm out of it. I know now that like I don't need any of those products to be healthy, to help my exercise, all of those things. I feel like I have so much more time in my day truly like I can just, or if I just want to scroll on social media and watch YouTube or watch, go on Instagram for a little bit, like I can just do those things. It's not like I need to be messaging people or posting. I remember I always had to make sure I posted like before 8 o'clock because like that's when my time started. So I always felt like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to like go in stories and share a post like before my day starts because I have to get it out there. Like just so much anxiety with it. So I feel like I have more time in my day. I feel like I've just been, my eyes are open now to all of it. And I feel grateful that I found like the anti-MLM content. I have been wanting to share stuff for a while. So I've been watching you and just
we've been talking for a while too, back and forth. And I want to circle back to, you had mentioned earlier in this interview about your body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just comment on it because I don't want to use the word love per se, but I always find it really intriguing. Let's use that word, to talk to people who have body dysmorphia, because it was probably 5 or 6 years ago that I realized that people who I viewed as slender or the perfect body would have body dysmorphia too. So when I see your pictures on Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, look how skinny she looks. Look how fit she looks. Like she's so beautiful. And then to hear people like you say, I hated how I looked. I have body. And it's always a hard thing because I've always been overweight. I've always been a plus size person. And I have body dysmorphia, but it's because I'm the opposite of you. And it's so interesting when you meet people who have basically the same thoughts about their body,
Right.
but their body looks like what you want it to look like. Like it's a very, and it was very almost, at first I was kind of like, how dare they? Like, what do you mean they have body dysmorphia? Like, they look perfect.
Yeah.
But then it almost became comforting to know that, like, okay, it's not just people who are fat over, like, I'm going to put fat in quotes because, like, I don't hate the word fat, but I know some people don't want to use that word, or they get triggered by it. But, it's not just people who are obese, overweight, fat, whatever. It is all body sizes, all body types that experience body dysmorphia. And these MLMs feed into it. They feed into our insecurities. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had considered joining Beachbody.
Yeah.
I never heard of Lavell until, I joined this movement. But Beachbody was everywhere. And I was like, I could do Beachbody. Like, that'll get me in shape. But I knew, I have ADHD. I wasn't going to ever complete a program. I never complete programs. Like, that's just not going to be me ever. So it's really, so when you left Lavell, did your, are you still, can I ask if you're still like dealing with body dysmorphia? Has that improved, or where are you?
Yeah. So I would say it's something that I've struggled with for a long time. And it's because, as you know, being tall, because we're both very tall.
Yeah.
I was bullied very badly in high school for being middle school and high school.
Let's play a fun game. What were your nicknames? What did they say to you?
Well, I was called a stop sign.
What?
Because I have in my head, and then I was just, I guess, slender.
Oh, come on.
I was called a lollipop for the same reason.
Oh my gosh.
My name is Kattreena, and it has the word tree in it, the way I spell it. So I was called that. I was also, there were like some basketball player references. I couldn't even tell you. Like, I don't watch basketball.
You know what? I mean, I would almost take those. I was called Big Bird.
Oh my gosh.
And the Jolly Green Giant. Because I was tall and wide and had blonde hair. It was, oh yeah. I mean, and it's so funny, like, that we got bullied for being just tall. Like, isn't that, like, when you look back, you're like, I even got bullied for being a singer. Like, just because I could sing. It's wild, the things that people will choose to bully you for.
Yeah.
Okay. So we move on from the fun nicknames we were bullied.
Oh, I did have a teacher call me Inspector Gadget too.
And in
elementary school.
Isn't it crazy? We had teachers that bullied us. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
I know.
Okay. So anyhow, where are you at on your journey?
Yeah. So I was going to say, like, I've dealt with it for a while, and I have been in therapy. I'm very pro therapy, and it has helped me tremendously. But having this is, I feel like, what got me into the MLMs to begin with. Just being like, okay, I need to fix this. I need to fix my body. I am in a way better place now. I still have my moments. I believe I will always struggle and just have good and bad days. Yeah. But I have really, I am much better off than I was. I can truly, like, enjoy food now. Not necessarily look at food as good or bad, but just, this maybe has more nutrients in it than
Yeah.
Also,
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, also having children, I was very aware of my habits and that I didn't want to model those for them. Yeah. So I had different things. Like, if they offered me a bite of their food, no matter what it was, like, I wasn't going to say no. Like, even if I thought this isn't a good food to eat.
Right.
So that has helped too. So I definitely feel like in a way better place, but I think it will always be something that I struggle with.
The way, so, like, for me, body dysmorphia is like, I'm not thin enough, right? Okay. Now, for you, was it that you were too thin, or you wanted, like, what, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what was it that you had a problem with, or what were you upset with your body?
I never thought I was skinny enough. So I always, I always obsessed on the number on the scale. So at one point back in college, I was weighing myself like 3 times a day. Like, it controlled my day. Like, if I didn't hit a certain number, it affected the food I ate. If I went out with friends and had drinks, or I remember in college, I like wouldn't eat all day. Because I knew we were going out to drink, you know, and we were going to hit sheets after, you know?
Yeah. That story is way too true to me.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've been there to go to Sheets.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to Sheets tonight, guys.
Yeah.
All day.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So yeah. And I've always struggled with the idea, like, because I'm tall, I think it was always like, that's something I can't control, where my weight, I can control.
Maybe sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So it was always like just picking apart, you know, my body, and just, I didn't think like the scale was always driving how I felt about my body.
Yeah.
And, you know, just looking at it and thinking this could be improved and this could be improved, you know? So it was always, I'm not small enough.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
Yes. Okay. So we're the same height. I'm 5'11" as well. And was there a point in your life where you were like, I love my height. I'm comfortable in my height. When did that happen for you?
It happened in college. I would say, like, after I got out of that high school phase, it was like, wow, people actually don't care about this anymore.
Isn't that so strange?
And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to start wearing heels. Like, who cares?
Yes.
And now, like, I own it and I love it now. Did not love it before, but I love it now.
Yeah, I think sometime around high school was when, or even middle school, like, I never really let people bully me, not let me wear heels. I always kind of just was like, I'm going to be tall. I'm going to wear heels. This is what this is who I am. But it definitely was still something that I like internalized, where I was like, I am so much taller than everyone.
Yeah.
And even still to this day, if I'm standing with people and someone is like smaller next to me, I feel like I need to kind of like just shrink a little bit.
Yeah.
And I went to high school with a girl who, when I saw her years later out of high school, I was like, oh my God, are we the same height? And she goes, oh yeah, I just walked like this all the time. And I never realized, because she was, I mean, she's gorgeous, tall model, like, I mean, just beautiful, but I never knew we were the same height because she walked so slouched. And then it was college and adult life where she finally like stood up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how, I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird system that we grew up in. And I hope, knock on wood, that our kids are growing up in a better system where being bullied for being tall is just stupid. Being bullied in general for anything is stupid. Like, for things that you literally can't avoid or help, like, that's just beyond dumb.
Right.
Oh man. But I mean, and it's just crazy how they prey. I mean, and I know that people hate hearing the word predator or prey.
Yeah.
That's what it is that they prey, especially these health and wellness MLMs, they prey on us.
Right.
Because they know we have these insecurities and they can fix us.
Exactly.
And then they don't. And so you're like, I got to keep spending money.
Right.
So here's my last question, because I know your time is very valuable and I want to make sure that I respect that. If somebody is watching this that is still in their MLM, and they're having that cognitive dissonance we've experienced, they're starting to kind of watch videos where we've been before, what advice would you give them about what they've just listened to and what they should do moving forward? Like, any advice you have for people who are considering getting out?
I would say go with your gut. That is something I wish I would have done sooner. So, and understand too that these are just facts being presented. Like, those who are sharing facts about MLMs, they truly have nothing to gain. Like, they don't have anything to gain. Right. And I always look at, how we have facts to present, where with the MLMs, there aren't facts presented. Exactly. So I would definitely say, listen to the information that's being given, and go with your gut, because your gut is always right. It
really is. It really is. Unless you're doing the Beachbody gut health protocol.
Oh my gosh, I've been watching stuff on that. That is just.
Then your gut's probably going to be way wrong because it's messed up.
It's messed up. Yeah.
All right, Kattreena, thank you so much for joining us. And I really look forward to this being out into the world so everybody can hear your story.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Yes.